welcome. Now this is supposed to be... I'll carry on. This is having a clue. This one? That one? Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to look straight down the camera like I'm sexy. That's my best sexy. Sorry. Okay, a couple of things. I'm convinced Bjorn is a frustrated presenter. I didn't understand very much of what was just said, but you can tell from his presence on the stage, he'd like to be up on the stage more. Thank you for inviting me. I've got to say that to Bjorn first of all. This presentation today is slightly different from a lot of the stuff that I do. When I was first asked to speak at the event, Bjorn said, I'm very clear about what I want. I want you to do the 10 top tips you would give to operators in terms of improving retention. And I was, no, I'm not doing it. And he said, no, that's what I want. And I went, look, there's a challenge with just doing top tips, and that is, if you just give people top tips, they go, oh, I'll just do those things, and they just go and apply them without thinking about how they work within their business. Now my background, if I just give you a bit of my background, is that I've been working in the fitness industry for more than 25 years. I started as a gym instructor in my local YMCA, a charitable Christian organisation. And I worked my way through almost every single role in the leisure business, apart from I've never been a sales director. It's never been part of my role. I had made sales, obviously, but I've never run a sales team or driven a sales team. But I've worked in small companies, I've worked in large companies, and I've always been fascinated by why it is that people come and join our clubs, but then very quickly seem to stop coming after joining. They almost like lose this motivation or lose the will to attend. So I stepped away from running clubs, and I spent a long time as an educator of personal trainers. I used to train and give personal trainers for about 15 years, and studied psychology. I went and studied human psychology and particularly exercise psychology before I did my PhD, because I'm interested in how you keep people exercising. So today's presentation really is less about the analytical work that I do with operators and companies, and more about the tactics and strategies, more to do with tactics, that we deploy once we've got the analysis done. So I don't tend to work just on I have a one-size-fits-all approach. If you have an organisation and you want me to help you with retention, we look at what the problem with retention is, the specific what the problem is within your business. Now I'm really fortunate, I think I've got headset. Now I can look like Madonna. Can I just ask, has anyone seen me present this year? Has anyone watched me do the step routine? No, you've not seen me do the step routine? I'll let you have access to the video of me doing a step routine. I was on stage demonstrating a step routine and managed to kick the step off the stage into the audience. Just up the road in Vallentuna. It wasn't planned. Okay, bit off track. There's a little video camera at the back. I'm videoing this session. If you email me afterwards, you can have the video to use to record what I've talked about, but you'll also have an opportunity if you want to show it to any of your staff members. You can do that. But I've been really fortunate. I do lots of big analysis, and give you an example. 2012, I did an analysis in the UK market of 342,759 members over a 4-year period. So we looked at the member behaviour from over 100 different clubs, from a whole range of different types of clubs, in order to get better understanding of what's going on. Now this year I've done a little bit more. I did one for Ursa, it's just been published. We called it 1 million strong. Only reason it was called 1 million strong, calling it 1.47 million strong didn't quite have a ring to it. But we've studied 1.47 million members from over 475 clubs over a 3-year period in the North American market, both the US and Canada. So I do big data analytics, and that may seem a lot, and it is a lot compared to what most people do as studies, but I've just completed one study in the UK for one operator of 800,000 members over the last 5 years. They've managed to sell 1 million memberships since their start in five years ago, and I've been analysing their data to look at the behaviour and the trends of their members within their clubs to help them keep their members for longer. So I do quite a lot of big data analysis, but because I trained as a psychologist, I also do strategy development around changing people's behaviour. You know, I'm quite fascinated. You know, I train traditionally, as most gym instructors, reading books like this about the heart, lungs, how to train, how to get healthy, program design. Most people don't know me for the fact that I was a trainer of this type of information for a long time. And what fascinated me was when I looked in this book, obviously it's in Swedish, and I was like looking at the pictures, and I got to a picture, and I was going through, and I can't find my picture now. I found a London bus. And I instantly know what that London bus means in a fitness book. That was Jerry Morris's study, done in 1953, 50-ish, on the difference between cardiac problems with bus drivers compared to bus conductors. And I was fortunate, I trained under Jerry Morris at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, where he used to work, and he passed away a few years ago, which is unfortunate, but it's nice to see a London bus in a Swedish fitness magazine. So it's probably the reason we have such poor fitness levels in the UK. We have such good public transport infrastructure. We joke about the only way we'll ever beat the Kenyans at distance running is to invest in their public transport system, because all the time they're walking and running as much as they do, we haven't got a chance. Okay, I get to work with lots of different operators, so this really gives you the spectrum of the range of people I work with. At one end, some of you will be familiar with the UK, the Gym Group. They're a low-cost operator. Some will call it a budget operator. I was recently in the States, and one of the things I've noticed when I work in America, as much as I love it, is if you can take a simple concept like budget, there's a possibility of turning it into a more complex term. And so these are now not being referred to as budget in America. These are high volume, low cost. So we've now got 4 words to replace one. I just think that's what I think. But that'll cost you £17 a month for membership. So it's a budget operator, nice, plain, simple, really easy to use. The other end, Kicks. That will cost you £5,000 to join, and £5,000 a year membership fee after that. So your first year is going to cost you £10,000. I don't know what the conversion is at the moment. I had a wallet full of Swedish crowns, so I didn't transfer anything, but I would guess that's still a lot of money, whatever the conversion rate is. So you've got those two. You know, they've got 60 clubs that are growing. These have got one club with 1,500 members. Currently finishing contract negotiations with Keep Cool in France. They've got 130 franchise sites across France. Have any of you ever worked in France? Labour laws in France are just the most ridiculous in the world. So getting anyone to do anything is just hard work. Someone else I've been talking to this week and last, and we're finalising contract, Orange Theory Fitness. It's more of a boutique franchise system. So a club of an Orange, are any of you familiar with Orange Theory? Yeah, so you know, one of their clubs would fit in this room, the entire club. It's a 45-minute class format, high intensity training, every day from head office they send out the workout of the day, and that goes around the world, and all the trainers teach that class all day long in 45-minute slots. And then the next day is a different class. And they're now saying, actually, we'd like some support and some help. First of all, we want to know how long our members stay for, and then we want you to help us add some extra time to that, because every extra month they stay is worth more money. Then I'm just showing off, because at Anytime Fitness North America, who happen to be running at about 2,400 clubs at the moment, which I can't get my head around. I just deal with head office. To helping them with their digital strategy, their app development, And I suppose at one end you've got Anytime Fitness who are looking for world domination, and at the other end you've got PA out in Vallentuna who's just enjoying running his club. And I enjoy working there. The team there are absolutely fabulous, love it. Now for me, I'm going to talk about retention, and for me, retention is not the opposite of attrition. I hear it all the time, people say, oh, if your retention is this, your attrition is that. No, attrition is the opposite of sales. How many sales you made, how many people you lost. Retention is how long they stayed between when they joined and when they stopped paying or stopped visiting. So they are different things. They contribute to one another, but they are not the opposite of one another. And one of the big challenges I think our industry's had is we haven't really used analytical methods to measure member behaviour really since the inception of our industry. We've used things that we've made up ourselves. One of the most common formulas, which is to take everybody that joined, or everybody you have as a member, add everybody that joined, and add those two numbers together and divide them by the people that left and give you a percentage, an attrition percentage. It's just absolute rubbish. It's not an analytical. You won't find it in any statistics books, business metric books. In fact, when I was chasing the history of it, because it frustrates me so much and it's publicised so much, measure your attrition. I traced it back to where I think it came from, and two people admitted in a big trade organisation to, we made it up one afternoon over a coffee. I said, our industry has been using that as a measure for years and cannot get a grip of how well their members are behaving. And you're telling me you introduced, I told you he wants to be up here. And you introduced a methodology that's been misleading, and they went, well, we were trying to help. I said, you didn't know, you just didn't. So I'm only going to talk about retention, the gap between when they join and when they stay. So I'm going to reiterate again, it's how long they stay. Now look, if you had a club, if you've got two clubs, I know some of you are single site and some of you got lots and lots of sites. Club A, Club B. 100 people join Club A, 100 people join Club B. Over a period of time, 100 people leave Club A and 100 people leave Club B. Just looking at that, and the orange line represents months, which club would you rather manage? They both joined 100, they both lost 100. So you could actually say their attrition is equal. Yeah, fine. But that's not telling you what's going on in the business relative to your income and how members are behaving. You've got one behavioural factor, well, you've got three. You've got a join behaviour, you've got a length of stay behaviour, and you've got a quit behaviour. Who here would like their friend, colleague, or not friend to manage Club A? You know, if you said, which one do you want, A or B? Then, well, do you know what, you can have A, I'll have B. Okay, top 10 things. Like I said, Bjorn asked me, he said, can you do a top 10 list? And I said, yeah, all right, I'll have a think. It's not necessarily this is the first most important, second most important. What I looked for was the 10 things that I thought were most applicable to you generally as operators, as opposed to very specific things. So some of these will apply and some of these won't apply, but they're the top 10 things. And I'm going to go through all of them. And if you want the slides, you can have the slides. All right, so you don't have to worry about taking pictures. I'll send you the slides. You can have the video. You can mute the audio, so it just makes more sense. Okay, so let's talk about visits. I talk about visits as probably the first thing I talk to operators about. If they don't visit, there's almost nothing else you can do. The key driver for me in retention is visits. If they don't visit, you can't talk to them. If they've stopped visiting, they're thinking about leaving, or may start to think about leaving if we prompt them in other ways. The difference between when they join and when they finish is based on the number of visits they make. If they start making less visits, I can tell you this, once they start to decline in visits, if it's over a certain period of time, we can predict how rapidly they are going to cancel. So we can do predictive analytics to show the chances of someone quitting at an individual level now. So if I had data on all of you, I could predict who's least likely to be exercising in 6 months' time, so that we can do interventions not just generally throughout our businesses, but when that person comes into the club, that person needs speaking to now, because they could be on their last visit. So I'm going to look at visits as tactic one, because that's where I'd start with most operators. I just wanted to show you some data from some of the clubs I work with. So this is an operator. They've got more than 4 clubs. Well, it just looks ridiculous if you just do all of them. Can you see that from here? Am I standing in the way? I'm going to move over. Can you see that all right? The banner's not in the way, but you just might have to move. Average visit frequency per month after joining. Look, Club 1, no visits. Joined, never visited. So an activity I might be involved in is looking at what we can do to get those people who join to actually come in. Now, I've worked with some low-cost operators who've got 10% of the people who join their clubs do not make a visit. Now, we're doing some further analysis. Most of them join on a Sunday night. And I reckon they're probably in some sort of laid-back laptop tablet mode. Like, oh, no, student membership, that's cheap. Oh, I'll join that. And then they could just as easily have been on eBay or Amazon or just buying anything. But because the cost is low, they come in. But imagine what 10% of adding 10% of your membership coming an extra month if they're paying month by month. You know, this is an operator that is working with over 400,000 members. So we're talking about, you know, here about 35,000 members in a 3-year period joining and not coming in. So they get 1 month from them. Imagine you got 2 months from 35,000 members. The impact's huge. Somewhere between 0 and 1 per month, 21%. They joined and came once in the first month. 1 to 2 visits, 25%. 3 to almost 6 visits, 20%. Now, most people think, oh, when people join, that's when they're most enthusiastic and they'll come in and they'll use the club a lot. There's a huge percentage that don't even come in, or they come in once and don't come back. If you start to track the people who come in once and don't come back, it often has something to do with the way you induct them into the gym. You know, I've seen some of the clubs that some of you operate, either while I've been in Stockholm in different occasions, or just through looking at pictures. Sometimes they can look really intimidating. I'm not saying that's deliberate, but if someone is new to exercise, the first time they come in and they're shown around, if they don't very quickly grasp the sort of written rules of the club, the unwritten rules of the club, where to go, they fall away really quickly. Because the second visit requires them to do it on their own rather than with support. So I've always used an analogy a bit like driving lessons. If you were learning to drive, in the UK we have multiple driving lessons and you learn different skills in each lesson till you're competent. In the fitness industry we go, well, we don't do lots of driving lessons, we do one, it's an hour, you've got to learn everything, then off you go. Now if you did that with people driving cars, there would be absolute chaos out on the road. In fact, lots of people would have their first driving lesson, you'd say to them, you're on your own now, out you go, they'd never get back in a car again. Because it's just too scary. So we have to think about what's going on in terms of visit frequency, and can we drive that? Time to first visit. 15% take 2 weeks to get started. They're taking 2 weeks, so they have that initial motivation of, yeah, I'm going to join a club. And then there's like, Some of that's operational because they can't get an appointment to actually have an induction. Some of it's just fear. A lot of people that I've spoken to, and I do a lot of interviewing of members, they have this idea of joining the club, and the goal is to join the club. And they believe that actually once I've joined the club, things will all fall into place. They never actually think about what they need to do to actually come to the club on a regular basis. They sort of have, I'm here, I want to be here, if I join the club, magically this will happen. And you say, well, when are you going to train? Oh, what are you going to do less of in order to train? Now I'll come back to this slide a little later, but this is the number of extra months we added to an operator when we changed visit frequency pattern. From one visit, sorry about the spelling on that, one visit per week, we just put it 0. That's what people were doing. When we got them from 1 to 2 visits per week, they added 7 months of membership. On a membership where people pay month by month by month. So shifting them from 1 visit to 2 visits gave them, the operator, 7 months. Somewhere between 2 and 3 per week, because some weeks they don't do 3, 19 months. People who we got up to more than 3 visits per week, we got an additional 28 months of membership, more than 2 years. But you can't get them to shift from this to this. From that to that. And in fact, starting them here is often a problem, because it's too much too soon for lots of people who are new to exercise. When I worked with Club Med Gym in Paris, on their 22 sites, we were able to do analysis that showed new members who've never exercised before, if they come more than 12 times in the first month, they quit faster than people who only come once in the first month. So they went off like a rocket and then tapered away. So maybe some of our messages need to be changed. And rather than we say, oh, you need to be training 3 times a week, we should be talking about training somewhere between 4 and 12 times a month. Start talking monthly periods rather than weekly periods. Because if someone misses a training session, you can catch up in a month. Whereas if you miss it in a week, it becomes really difficult. Psychologically, people then beat themselves up going, oh, I missed a training session. And they give themselves reasons not to train. But that's why I focus on visits first. Would you like an extra 28 months of membership out of some of your members? There's a few that you want to leave now, but the majority, you'd like them longer. We've repeatedly shown that interactions, talking to people, has a massive impact, and it's probably the most low-cost intervention you can do. In fact, interactions drive visits, and visits provide opportunities to do interactions. So they're cyclical. If you can get them to visit and then you talk to them, you're more likely to get them to visit again. And if they visit again, you're more likely to talk to them, and they just stay longer and longer and longer. Okay. Members who report not being spoken to by either reception or fitness staff are more than twice as likely to cancel as members who are always spoken to by staff. We do know that the value of the front of house talking to people, reception staff, is a little lower in its impact than the fitness staff or the group exercise teachers talking to them or the PTs. And the reason that is, when you interview members, they go, well, it's called reception. They're supposed to talk to us. You wouldn't come into this hotel, book into the hotel and be ignored by reception. So people are expecting it. So the value of that isn't quite as high as it is when you're spoken to by someone who's either teaching your class, running your PT, or obviously a PT should speak to you if you're having a session. But when PTs talk to people who aren't their clients, it has an impact on the client. If you have general fitness staff, talking to them when they're in the club has an impact. Some of it's really basic, some of it needs to be more complex. Anyone here familiar with the Reebok Club in Canary Wharf in London? It's a big old club, 7,000 members, they do 3,500 member visits per day. They do 200 visits at the weekend. So it really, literally, it's in the financial district, it's either busy or empty. And at this time of day, if you went in there, you'd have the entire club to yourself. So it's busy mornings, lunchtimes and evenings, but during work hours, absolutely dead. It's right in the middle of the banking sector. We interviewed their members and we also did some analysis. And what we were able to show was there's four categories: spoken to every visit, spoken to occasionally, rarely and never. So we were asking, how often are you spoken to by recall? We then also asked the question, what's the likelihood of you still being here in 6 months' time? Now, we found that question to be a very strong predictor of future behaviour. Just asking, what's the likelihood of you still being in this club in 6 months' time? If they say high, they're actually more likely to stay. If they say they're not sure or don't know, they're actually more likely to quit, because we've been able to link that to the data. If I get spoken to every time, we give that a 1. If I only get spoken to occasionally, they report being 60% more likely to quit within the next 6 months. 70% more likely if they're only spoken to rarely or never. So the impact, just between being spoken to every visit and occasionally, 60% in difference in behaviour. Now some people, all they need is, hi, how are you? Like from distance, just a recognition they came in. Some need more interaction than that. There are about 15 different behavioural conversations you can have. Some about their past experience, some about their current experience, and some about their future experience that you can apply when you're talking to people. Very simple, structured conversations. But if you're employing fitness staff who have an inability to talk to customers, you've just employed the wrong person. Or you continue to employ the wrong person. So when I was running clubs, one of the assessments when people joined or when they were being interviewed was, we'd sit and discuss the job and we'd say to them, through there's the gym, can you go in there, you've got 10 minutes, go and talk to anybody you like, and then come back and tell us what you found out. On some occasions we saw people go out the door, down the stairs, out the front of the club, and walk down the pathway out of the club. They were so scared of walking into an unknown space and talking to people that they terminated their own interview and left. Well, that's fine for me, because I didn't want them anyway. Some went into the gym, came back and said, oh, I've spoken to them, that the dumbbells aren't heavy enough, we need 150 kilo dumbbells. We need a new cable crossover and a swimming pool. That would tell me generally that that person is going to side with the members on all issues and all they're going to do is bring me problems. So I'm actually going to be a terrorist in my own business. The best guy I ever had was a guy called Mike. He ended up working for me as a fitness manager. Went out, spoke to people, came back, said, oh, these people are from here. I could go out and speak to them in their corporate offices. You know, he was just brilliant. But I want to know, I want to employ people who can talk to people first and have a decent level of fitness education. I don't need to test whether they can do a lat pull down. If they've got their certification, they can do a lat pull down. They've been certified. Although some of the English qualifications now, I question that as well. 3 days to become a personal trainer. If both reception and fitness staff always spoke to members, we've estimated that 44% of cancellations could be avoided. That costs you nothing. Well, it might cost you something in terms of training and retraining and some of your managers actually managing. Sorry, I'm being cynical here. A lot of managers like the title manager but don't like actually managing. Managing is like 44% you could avoid your cancellations because people talk. This is my favourite slide. I try and use it in every presentation I do, whether it's relevant or not. Today it's relevant. If I speak to you once in October, the chances of you still being a member in November go up by 20%. If I speak to you 2 to 3 times in October, the chances of you still being a member in November go up by 50%. If I speak to you 4 or more times in October, the chances of you still being a member in December go up by 80%. 4 interactions requires 4 visits. That's still only once a week. Once a week is sufficient to retain members. It's not sufficient to create all of the changes described in this book. That won't work. You won't get the changes training just once a week, but they will stay members. That's why we're trying to shift them from 1 to 2, because at least 2 they'll get the health benefits. They might not even get some of the fitness benefits, they'll certainly get some of the health benefits. That's just amazing. Look at this. This was interaction when we studied members who remembered being spoken to or not spoken to over an 18-month period. These people have no recall of being spoken to by fitness staff. In 18 months of membership, it was 16 clubs we did this study on. The red line is people who remember being spoken to at least once in 18 months. And that conversation was memorable. Because if you have a conversation and they don't remember it, it has no impact. The conversation must have an impact on the person. And that's why you have these 15 different types of conversation. Think of it like this. Everything under the line is money. Everything above the line is lost money. So the potential for additional income within businesses is just ridiculous. This is the same, but it's just a different way of showing them the measures. No interaction, people cancelled at a rate of for 1,000 people, you lost 123 of them. For 1,000 people who got spoken to, you lost 40. That's 80 people less the sales team have to recruit to keep the business on the same level. Average length of membership, 5 months, 14.5 months. Maybe our industry, and this is going to sound really derogatory towards hairdressers, maybe our industry should just recruit more hairdressers who can walk the floor and go, have you been on your holiday yet? How are the kids? As opposed to going, have you worked out the actual training? I was talking to some personal trainers last week, and they were talking about the split routines they were designing for some of their new customers. I said, do you know the average visit frequency in the UK is 0.9 of a visit per week? And they're designing double split routines for people to follow. I said, you're designing a workout that's 3 days a week, 6 training sessions. It goes on 3 days a week, but there are 6 training sessions, a morning and evening. But the average visit frequency is 0.9. The gap of where a lot of our trainers are in terms of what they want to deliver and the actual behaviour of the members is like this. When members experience hassles in their club, that increases the risk of them cancelling. All right, queuing could be a hassle. That risk can be reduced if staff regularly speak or talk to members. I listen to people going, oh, if you need to change your equipment. Functional training equipment has no impact. People aren't using it. Well, if they're not using it, it's usually because the fitness staff or the PTs aren't teaching the members how to use it. In the club where I train, we have Bulgarian bags. If you've not seen Bulgarian bags, they're crescent-shaped, they're about this thick, they're usually made of leather and have handles. And unless you know what to do with them, you do this. What's that? Now in psychology, there's an element called self-protection theory. We avoid situations that make us look incompetent, unconfident and ugly. And one of those would be trying to work out what to do with a Bulgarian bag in front of everybody else. Just not going to do it. Some of you will be public speaking. Me, it's karaoke. I'm all right like this, put the music on and say, make a tune. No, I'm off. I can get to the airport in here in about 40 minutes. Programming. Our exercise programming needs to be revised. And so, I was talking to a personal trainer yesterday, and he's also trained as a physiotherapist. 5 years of education. I said, how much of your education do you get to use on a daily basis? He said, what, of the 5 years of learning? I went, yeah, we're in about 2 days. I said, the longer they stay, the more of that education you can use. The challenge is you try and use all your 5 years of education in the 1 hour where you've got just to try and impress them. I said, what you need to do is make them feel confident and competent and trust you, then they will let you you can share your education. But until you've built confidence and competence, that's not going to happen. Exercise content must be directly related to the goals. If members can't see the relationship between the exercise you've given them and the goal that they're trying to achieve, they don't do the exercise. Who has ever worked as a fitness instructor or personal trainer? How many of you know that you can give young men leg exercises to do all day long, but they're going to train his arms and chest? And when you look at their exercise program, you say, how's your leg training? Go, yeah, no, it's all right, it's all right. And all they're actually going to do is drop the leg exercises and do double exercises for the arms, double exercises for the chest, because they want the gun show on a Friday night. So it doesn't matter what we tell them. If they say, I want this, and we give them that, they're more likely to stay. If we go, I've looked at you, and what you need is this, they go, yeah, I'm going to do what I want to do. They literally do it. That's why they don't come back for their follow-up consultation, because they're not doing the exercise program you gave them in the first consultation. And they're certainly not going to come back and go, oh, you know that program you gave me? I didn't do it. I saw this bloke over there, he's just got such massive buys and tries. So I've just been copying him. Or I've been reading muscle and fiction. We also know this, and this is really worth understanding. And I'm sorry I haven't got a more stylish slide to present it. But we know from all the research studies done on exercise intensity, that as exercise intensity goes up, exercise adherence goes down. People, when the training becomes harder and harder and harder, the adherence, the compliance to that workout goes down and down and down. Because it's uncomfortable. I'm looking at some of you, and some of you look like you love uncomfortable exercise. You love elevated heart rate, elevated breathing, elevated sweating, burning muscles, strained tendons, loss of coordination, blurred vision. One or two of you might even rate a workout by, hang on, that was a good one. Yet for most people, particularly those who are new to exercise, and the general population, if they get elevated heart rate, elevated breathing, loss of vision, loss of coordination, all of the things I just described, they call an ambulance. We say that was a great class. We have to gradually train people to get used to the discomfort of exercise. And if you love that level of high intensity training, what you love is not necessarily how it feels while you're doing it, but you know it produces results. But we need to graduate people up to that. I keep hearing all these horror stories, and it's predominantly personal trainers. Now someone comes in for their first workout, and they've got them doing 80-kilo tyre flips and hammer workouts on tyres and stuff. There's nothing wrong with that stuff, it's a great way of training. But that client then can't walk for 5 days. They're in so much pain, it's like, the next day they're like, oh, a bit stiff. Day 2, day 3, I'm not even going to move. It hurts to move. They get their delayed onset muscle soreness. So we have to be cautious, because our industry loves this, at the moment we seem to be in so much in love with HIIT training. And I love HIIT training, it's a great method of training. But it's appropriate to a certain group of members, not all members, just because I went on a HIIT training course this weekend and now you're going to do it, because I want to teach it. You know, measuring and monitoring heart rate is a great way of increasing people's fitness. But we don't go, right, let's work on your anaerobic threshold day 1. Some of them reach their anaerobic threshold thinking about exercise. If we look at goals, one of the things I've looked at a lot is goal setting. And I use this simple diagram to illustrate it. This is where they are, that's where they want to be. A, B. What the difference is between A and B is visit frequency, exercise intensity, and program design. That's what makes the difference between them. If they do it more, the gap between A and B comes closer together. If they do it less frequently, it goes further away. If they don't do it at all, it's off that screen, it's a dream, and it's in the future. Now, what we do as an industry, or what we tend to do, is we tend to go really deep into the measuring of the goals really early on and break them down into the little component parts. So you want to lose 5 kilos, okay, over what time period? I'm not suggesting we don't do that, but there is another key element if you want to change people's behaviour. How many of you have ever done smart goal setting? Specific, measurable, accurate, realistic and time frame. You've worked something out. You've gone, if I'm here and my holiday's here and this needs to go, then I need to do this number of sessions per tour, and you've worked it out. That's the process. That doesn't drive the behaviour. What drives the behaviour is a term that's called a superordinate goal. So, superordinate goal. It's the value you place on the results, not the process you do to get it. So I'm going to shortcut this just because I'm conscious of time and everything, but a superordinate goal usually goes like this. I want to lose weight. What will that do for you? Oh, it will make me feel confident. What will that do for you? I'll feel more sexy. What will that do for you? I'll be happy. Confident, sexy and happy are the motivators of the training, not the specificity of the process. But we often don't go here, and I'm just being general when I use confident, sexy and happy. But actually, on most people, if you continue to find out why it's important to them, you always end up at happiness. Why would you want to improve retention within your business? Because it improves the bottom line. Why is that important to you? Because it reduces some of the stress I have from my investors or my borrowing. Why is that? Well, then I can concentrate on other things that are less uncomfortable to do, on things that I enjoy doing more. And just keep going and it ends up at happy. So why would improving retention in your business be important? Because it'll make me happy. They all end up at happy. But we need to do this. We need to be more specific. Driving or drilling down into people's processes, particularly when we're seeing that they actually don't visit that frequently. We really start saying to people, look, if you're prepared to train twice a week for the next 6 months, this is what will happen. If you also change your nutrition, it will happen in this period of time. But we need to start being realistic. Progress towards their goals is an important determination of retention. If people feel they're moving closer and closer to their goal, they stay longer. How simple is that? Interesting enough, a lot of the members you talk to, their goal is to turn up. Their goal is to turn up. How many of you have members that come on a Monday? Your busiest day of the week is Monday. Yeah, it's pretty much. Traditionally, I don't think it's so much true now, traditionally it's because TV was rubbish on a Monday. So you might as well go down the gym. But when you interview as many people as I have, and over 12 years it's been about 28,000 people, they were naughty at the weekend. Monday night is payback time. And if they started drinking on Thursday and stopped drinking Sunday night and partied all the way through the weekend, as long as they did one class on a Monday night, that cancels it out in their head. It doesn't cancel it out in their body, but the psychological payback cancels it out. And remember this, if you don't get their head, you don't get their body. It's their head that determines whether they turn up today. It's their head that makes the decision about how hard they're going to train. It's not their body. Their body just happens to be the vessel that carries their head. And whatever state of mind you can get their head into is the thing that's going to determine whether they come to your club or not. For each goal that members report making progress on, their risk of cancelling is approximately 10% next month. So actually having small goals, not just the outcome goal, but small process goals, really important. One of the things I teach people is, what are you working on today? What you normally get when you ask a member that question is what I call blank stare. What's your goal of today's workout? What do you mean? Well, what are you trying to get from today's workout? I'm just working out. So what's your goal overall? I want to lose weight. They don't think about the actual value of each workout. So we need to get them focused right in, because actually, if the goal of today's workout was to add a minute, they can be successful today. They haven't got to wait 6 months. We can find them small places to be successful every time they come in. And if we know what their superordinate goal is, we can press that button and get them to come in again. There's a strong association between members' recent progress towards their goals and the frequency of fitness staff interaction. Even if we measure them and they're not actually making any progress, they believe they're making progress when staff talk to them. I must be doing great because the staff talk to me now. That must mean I fit in more, I feel more like part of the club, and I must be on the right track. So there's a relationship between staff talking to members and their belief in their achievement of their goals. Now, if you can get the staff to talk to the members also about their goals, you're on a winner. Members who report either high or low progress in recent months, so they are or not making progress, the risk of cancellation reduces with every frequency of fitness staff interaction. So every time you speak to them, you reduce the risk of cancelling, even if they're not achieving any goals. Interesting enough, if you think about the people who've been the members in your club the longest, they're probably spoken to every time by your staff just because they've been there a long time. But how many of them have actually made any changes to their bodies? There's loads of them who've been coming for years. They look exactly the same as they did when they started. But because they're spoken to, we can retain them as members. Members who report lower progress, but so those who don't make progress but are spoken to, 50% less likely to quit. So even if they're not getting the results, you can get them to stay. If all low progress members were spoken to, at least frequently, 10% of cancellations will be avoided each month. Social. Members who report frequent interactions, it goes back to interactions, more likely to believe that they've made new friends, even if it's only the fitness staff they talk to. Okay, bit of a challenge here. Any one of you have club in your title of your business? No one wants to put their hand up there because I think it's going to be a challenge. So like health club, fitness club, sports club. If it has club, people believe straight away there's a sense of belonging, joining the community, because that's what a club is. If they get that, they stay. If they don't get that, they don't believe it to be a club. One of the challenges we've created within our industry with low cost, and there's nothing wrong with low cost, is that we've moved a business model that's meant to be, and it's not always, meant to be based on relationships and service into something that is transactional and access. It's just make a swipe, in you go, that's it, and there's no interaction. And in all the data I have on low-cost operators, and I work with 3 of them, they have more challenges holding on to their members than clubs that have staff. In fact, several of them are looking at it and saying, actually, we might put staff back in. Because even if we have one staff on the floor just walking around talking to people who isn't a personal trainer, that will probably save more members than if we do anything else. What we had was a very big industry that said it would provide service, but actually didn't. So we charged up sort of mid-range, didn't provide a service, and then when low cost come in, they said, well, we won't charge you that much, but we promise you we won't deliver the relationship part. And they've done great in terms of selling memberships. You know, the gym group sold 1 million memberships online in 5 years. So obviously there's a desire for the product. Group training. And I know there's a few group training people in the room. Okay, group training has an impact on how long people stay. Now you've got to understand, not everybody desires to do group training. But if we could get people to do some form of group training, it could be small group training, it could be boot camp type workouts, it could be piloxing, it could be other type of group activity. It can reduce cancellations by as much as 18%. So it's not that they only do, but they do some. So they might go to the gym a couple of times a week and they might do a class. But that combination of using more of the facility, and we're exploring this at the moment, is it that just actually they're more confident in the facility and they use more activities that keeps them? Do you know what? I don't care. Once I find something that works, I keep doing it till it stops working. But that's not a bad sum. On 100,000 people, that's 18,000 members. If you work out what 18,000 members are worth to you for an extra month, that might be worth having a few options on group activity. I've got to say though, some of the quality of teaching of group activity is really poor, particularly when we ask personal trainers to do it who don't want to do it. And they don't know really what to do either. Contracts. I've shown this one a lot, and this creates a lot of debate. It doesn't vary by business, but it does vary. Well, it varies by business, but not by outcome. People who join up for longer stay for longer. So this is the North American study. So this is the 1.47 million. What you have here, grey line people, length of stay, who are paying month by month by month. Orange line people who have agreed to pay for 12 months and then roll on their contract. Remember, everything above the line, everything below the line is money. Simple tip, I'll say what, simple observation. Everything that makes the sale harder improves retention. Joining fee, age, contract. All the things that make it a harder sale improve retention. And that's just ridiculous. That means more than half, more than 50% of the people who took out 12 months were still there after 36 months. This is what that slide says. Average length of stay we got from the 1 month, 15 months. 12 months, we got more than 36 months of membership. So how do you recruit people who are more likely to stay? Well, age is a prominent factor. Older members always stay longer than younger members, always. Said that so many times, it's boring for me. Average length of stay in months, 16 to 24 is 15 months, 55 plus 22 months. You get an extra set of months, you get what, 7 months extra out of an older group? But getting an older group is another challenge to sales. It's harder to get them, but once you get them, they stay longer. It always looks like this when you draw the curve. Youngest, next oldest, and every 10 years it just goes up and up. We don't usually get that many in the plus 55, even when you have 1.5 million members. Be unrealistic, it was just we were doing a plan around with the data. If all members were at least 35 years of age, you'd save 30% of your memberships. So do you have a marketing strategy that goes directly after younger members, or do you have a marketing strategy or do you have a split marketing strategy? As people were coming into the bar last night and introducing themselves to Bjorn, I was like, who's that? Who's that? Because I don't know an awful lot of people here. And he was telling me about some of the clubs that you run, and if you've got a high-end club and it's got older members, just naturally, you're going to have better retention. If you don't have good retention, there's something wrong with the way you're delivering your service to those customers. Because every 10 years increases. If you're in a university environment, it's always going to be a challenge to hold on to those members for longer periods of time. They're more transient. The advantage you have in a university environment is you have a whole new lot every year. There's another wave of new members. But don't relapse. If you have inductions, now this was when I did my PhD, we added 7 months of membership by changing the way we did gym induction. We incorporated behaviour change psychology. Now, if any of you saw me speak at FIBO earlier this year, at the Europe Active event, I actually explained for the first time on a big stage what I did to get that result. And if you want that video, email me, because I videoed it. And you can watch it, it's about 20 minutes long. Well, we checked, look at the difference. Interesting enough, the pattern's the same, but we just increased the length of time. So this was a standard 1-hour gym induction. That was the same standard 1-hour gym induction plus some additional support in behaviour change, not teaching more equipment. We added 7 months. And I'm conscious of time, and the last thing we can do is overrun because the meetings won't work and Bjorn will die. Queuing. Queuing does have an effect. If people are having to queue in your club for equipment, it's going to have an effect on retention. But what you notice is when you start interviewing people and then looking at their behaviour, not just saying, is it a hassle? They go, yeah, it's a hassle. Will it cause you to quit? It doesn't really cause people to quit. Only about 5% quit because of the hassle. And when you explore it even further, what you find out is this. Actually, if we quit here, we go to the gym down the road, they're queuing there as well. So actually, we like this club and we're prepared to queue here. It's a bit like when you sit in your car in the traffic. There's nothing you can do about the traffic. Is it a hassle? Yeah. You're going to not use your car? No. Let me just fly through these. I want to do these last 3. Extra months of membership. If you can get people to complete an induction, and so many people just go, oh no, you don't need an induction. This was an operator we worked with in the States. We added 7 months. Every person that had an induction, it was worth 7 months of membership to them. Every person that was coming at least 2 times a week, 7 months. Travel within 5 minutes, you can't control that, 11 months. So where does the marketing go? It goes within a 5-minute radius of travel time. Age 34 to 45, we've got 12 months. Pre-joiners, pre-sales, stay longer than so many other types of people who join after. 2 to 3 visits, 19 months. More than 45 years of age, just there. 22 months. 3 visits a week, more than 28 months. So there are specific things you can do to add months to membership. But you have to work at them, it's not easy. What was the value to that operator? Well, if we changed 5% of their membership base from what they were doing to the new behaviour, and that was 100,000 people, was 5%. It shows you how big the business was. Completing the induction was worth $200,000. Getting them to join in pre-sale was worth 1.2 million. If we could get 100,000 people, or 5% of their membership, to visit 3 times a week, it was worth an extra $38 million to their business. How much money would you spend to get $38 million? You know, I think when I start looking at these numbers, I think I should put my prices up. But you can't go from one visit to here. It takes a whole structure. Not only do you have to change the behaviour of the members, you often have to change the behaviour of the staff, so they're thinking and behaving differently, but you also have to change the behaviour of the managers and the management team into, okay, sales is important, but also keeping people is really, really important. Think about all the time and effort you put into getting someone, and then just, I'm not saying it's true of you, but so many of our colleagues, just let them fall out the back door and go, oh, we'll just get another one. That one person could be worth a fortune. He's hovering. If you want the video on this, email me. If you want to contact me, I'm going to be around all day, but look, you've got meetings to go to. Go to your meetings, honour those meetings. There are a lot of suppliers here to be here and want to meet with you, so honour your meetings. But I will be around all day. If you want to talk to me, come and talk to me. If you want to get in touch with there, and I'll send you this video and the one from the Europe Active thing. I'd like to say thank you for your time, and have a great day and tomorrow as well. Thank you very much.